The winter's whisper. It was a night wrapped in snow, the kind that made everything outside feel distant, as if the storm was swallowing the world. The wind howled against the windows of an old house nestled deep in the mountains. The porch light flickered weakly against the darkness. The Ford family, Gareth, Rachel, and their two young children, Emma and Lucas, had come here for a peaceful winter getaway, far from the noise of the city. But what they didn't know was that peace had long since left this house. The first strange thing happened when they settled in and gathered around the fireplace. There was a faint smell in the air, a mix of rotting wood and something metallic. At first, no one paid it much attention, but Rachel eventually noticed. "Can you smell that?" she asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Gareth shrugged. "Probably just the old pipes. It'll pass." But it didn't pass. The smell lingered, slowly creeping through the house, following them as they moved from room to room. It felt like the house itself was alive, breathing with them. Emma and Lucas complained about it, their faces twisted as they sniffed the air, their little noses twitching in discomfort. Later that night, as the wind outside howled louder and the snowstorm worsened, something changed. At exactly midnight, everything went silent. The usual creaks of old wood, the soft hum of the furnace, everything stopped. It was as though the house itself had become still, waiting. Rachel sat up from the couch, her heart racing. She had been reading a book to the children, a story about snowy forests and mythical creatures. But her eyes kept drifting to the basement door, the only door in the house that was untouched by warmth. It stood slightly ajar, as if inviting her to look. "I'm going to check the basement," Gareth said. His voice was calm, but distracted. Before Rachel could say anything, a heavy thud echoed from below. It wasn't the usual creaks or groans of an old house settling. It was something purposeful, something alive. "Rachel?" Her voice was barely a whisper. The children looked at her, eyes wide with concern. "What was that?" "I'll be right back," Gareth said, brushing it off, though his voice didn't sound as confident now. He disappeared down the stairs, the sound of his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The seconds stretched on, each one feeling longer than the last. Rachel's eyes darted to the window. Snow swirled outside, and then something caught her attention. Faint lights, glowing in the distance. Green, blue, and red, moving in the dark, like eyes watching from the forest. Then came the smell. It wasn't just metallic anymore. It was something much worse, decay, rot, and blood. The stench hit her like a wave, suffocating and thick. She staggered back, clutching the arm of the couch. Emma and Lucas looked at her with fear in their eyes. The lights outside flickered once, then disappeared. The house groaned, and from deep within the basement came a low, unsettling hum. A sound like breathing, but far too deep, too heavy. It didn't belong in this world. "Gareth," Rachel whispered. The children's cries grew louder. The house was closing in around them. "Gareth," they heard his voice, weak and distant. "Rachel, help." Frantic, Rachel rushed toward the stairs, pulling the children behind her. But before they could even reach the bottom, the basement door slammed open with a deafening bang. The smell hit her full force, sickening, suffocating. It was everywhere. A figure stood at the top of the stairs. It was Garrett's figure, but it wasn't him. His face was pale, his eyes wide, unblinking. His mouth hung open, and dark stains were forming around his lips. And then, From the darkness behind him, something moved, something large, shifting in the shadows. It was hard to make out, but the flickering lights outside revealed enough. Grotesque eyes, reflections of the strange glow from the trees outside. "Run!" Garrett's voice rasped, but there was no strength left in it. His body was pulled backward into the darkness below, disappearing into the depths of the basement. The basement door slammed shut again. The temperature dropped, and Rachel stood frozen, her heart racing, unable to understand what had just happened. The air was thick now, filled with the smell of decay and blood. It felt like the house was alive, feeding on their fear. The children screamed, their voices desperate, their faces pale with terror. Outside, the lights returned, hundreds of them surrounding the house. They hovered in the air like watching eyes, their colors shifting green, blue, red, twisting in strange, hypnotic patterns. There was no warmth, only an unnatural chill that seeped into the bones. Rachel's breath came in short gasps as she backed into the corner of the room, clutching her children close. The silence in the house deepened, broken only by the sound of something heavy scraping in the basement below. Then a whisper, a voice from the walls, from the air itself. It was hungry and ancient. "Leave," it whispered. "It's too late." The glow outside brightened, as if the very sky was closing in around them. They had come seeking peace in the snow. But what they found in that house, frozen in time, was far worse. A hunger as ancient as the land, a hunger that would never let them leave.